We can't talk about this story in full. Something triggered me massively that night. It went too far.
Are you ready for the potential downside of this?
The fear of judgment is the thing. What will people think? What will people say? I'm Ben Edwards, performance and business coach, podcast host and serial entrepreneur. A few years ago, life humbled me and made me take a long, hard look at my choices. I spent a long time pointing the finger at everybody else. Turns out it was me. Hurt people, and I was a hurt person. And I'd like to invite you to listen to how that played out. This is the therapy that I never thought that I needed. Let's get to the heart of it.
How was your general emotional state during that time?
I'm not the sort of person who's okay with myself. The mistakes I've made. Look at them. I never would have behaved that way.
You're getting quite emotional talking about this.
I've lost a lot and I don't want to lose people that I love anymore. Anyway.
What's really important about that is that you've changed. You are taking the courage to not put the wall up. How does it really feel?
No word of a lie. The pain was... I'm Ben Edwards, and you're listening to The Heart of It. A few years ago, life humbled me and made me take a long, hard look at my choices. One day, you're going to hear a lot of things about me. Some of those things I can't talk about right now, but I had to make a lot of changes. I lived a life fueled by shame, and shame cannot survive being spoken about. It needs these three things to survive: secrecy, silence, and judgment. So I made the decision to start talking about these things, and I'd like to invite you to listen to how that played out. This is the therapy that I never thought that I needed. Let's get to the heart of it. Joe Jackson.
Benji.
Welcome to the heart of it.
Thanks, good to be here. Glad to see my logo up on the wall.
Our logo. It's a go. So everyone comments.
Yeah, I bloody love it.
Literally, Gemma sat there and she was like, "This is amazing what you've done in it."
Okay, let's rein it back in, shall we?
But it is though.
It does look good.
This is amazing.
To be fair,
this is the whole concept. It's really good.
It is really good. It's really good. So Benji, how are we doing?
I'm very well, thanks so much.
How are you feeling about the table being turned?
I don't know if I like the white one.
No. It's my time to interview you.
How empowered you are with an apple pencil.
Do you know why? I'm changing the colour of the ink while we're like, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
The ink, whatever it's called. Mm-hmm. So this is an opportunity for me to turn the table on you. We know that you love it when I ask you lots of questions. And we know that you love it that when I ask you those really heart-led, deep and meaningful questions. So we're going to have a little chat today. It's your opportunity to tell your story about 2023. We're going to focus in specifically on this year because, well, firstly, we've only known each other this year, despite appearances, despite some of the stuff we now know about each other. But we're going to talk about some of the stuff that's happened this year and explore some of those themes that have come up for you, specifically around kind of managing the highs and the lows, overcoming challenges, sitting in vulnerability, all of that kind of stuff. Sound good?
Yay.
Ready? Ready to rock?
Ready.
Okay, cool. So one of the first things that you started working on this year through a chat in the gym changing room, shocker, was working towards your Ironman. So to give a bit of context, tell me the journey, what is it? The road to Ironman. Tell me your road to Ironman, half Ironman.
So I started running around. Well, I started running before actually, when I was in Grantham, but not too much. I wasn't a runner, as most people who know me. Like, how they look at me on Instagram. I mean, not sure. This is the joke, the dinosaur hands.
We'll get onto that. So you're not a natural born runner?
No, I literally finished the half marathon, and I told this story the other day. Actually, I told this story, and I said I thought I'd sprinted.
The context of this is there we are in the Leicestershire countryside on some random cold March morning. It was freezing, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what it was.
Ben's like, "Oh, can you come and help me with this, please?" Yeah, of course I can. No worries at all. He's like, "I'm going to do it into 2 hours." Okay, you may now continue.
Yeah, I was going to do that half marathon in under 2 hours. I mean, I did.
at
1:59.57.
1:59.57, and he sprinted to the finishing line.
So
there he is.
I was like, it was it said something on my watch, like 20 kilometers or something. And then I was trying to look at my kilometer pace time, and me being me, could not do the maths.
I'm not surprised after 2 hours of running around some random country house estate.
Sprint. Ben sprint. So I literally Ben sprinted, and I'm thinking, Mo Farah would be like
cheetah in the desert. Yeah,
that's the kind of image.
Gazelle-like.
Joey's videoing it.
I feel like it's a good idea to insert. When
I played it to people the other day.
No, I think on this. I think you should.
The Ironman one where I was like, I'm cramping my forearms. What?
Sorry, when you're gazelle-like crossing the finishing line in Leicestershire, wherever it was. How did you feel right then, in that moment?
Fucked.
You lived it.
That's fucked.
I don't think you spoke for the next 10 minutes, apart from to tell me to stop cheering people on. Can you stop cheering people on? I'm like, they're still running.
Right. Again, pay some context. I've just run. At that point, it was a long time to run. And then Jo, it's not like she's going, hey guys, well done. Do an impression of what you were like.
Well, there was lots of women, particularly, who were flagging, and I was thinking, God, thank God that's not me. So I'd be like, woo, well done, keep going, so proud of you, you're doing great.
It was like a Blue Peter presenter, was like really giddy upping people.
Well,
and I was like, I'm not with you. Like, well, guys, you way to go. I was like,
they were all grateful. A lot of people gave me a little wave or a little smile if they had the energy to do so. Anyway, let's not worry about that too much. Let's go back.
Then I wore your pink scarf into David Lloyd. Right.
So half marathon was your first kind of training deadline, I suppose.
Rich told me, so he's the one who got me into the Ironman, and he was like, oh, so
how did he get you into the Ironman, Ben?
Well, I was in the changing rooms.
Right. And what happened?
Well, he overheard my conversation with someone else.
Right.
And he chipped in with, I've done an Ironman the last 3 years.
And you said,
I went, how hard can that be? And it turns out quite hard.
And you went, I'm Mr. Competitive.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can do that.
Pretty much what happened.
In fact, no, not let me see. I will show you that I can.
That's exactly what happened.
Right.
And I then obviously did not realise anything. I'd not been in the pool 15 years, pretty much, apart from splashing it like a holiday. I never swam properly.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Rich said that. Then he said to me, oh, we'll do a half marathon as a practice simulation. So I'd never known what a race event was like.
Because an Ironman is a half marathon, how many?
You have to swim 1.9 kilometres first, then bike 90 kilometres, and then run a half marathon.
Right.
Which I completed in 6 hours 51.
Anyway, so when you were doing your prep
Rich didn't come. That's the point of that story. He told me to sign up for it. He was going to run it too.
To the half marathon?
He didn't turn up.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me about, as you were preparing for your half marathon, how was your training?
It was part of the Ironman. I don't know if I had a coach then. But it was part of the Ironman training, which was Monday swim. So I'd like swim 2,000 metres every Monday. Then Tuesday I'd bike for an hour and a half, 90 minutes. So between 45 and 60 kilometres. Then run off that bike between 3 and 5 kilometres.
Called a brick.
Brick, you know that, well done. OTB, off the bike. Then Wednesday, swim again. Another same 2,000 metres, if not more. Obviously it got more when I signed up to full Ironman, which was a lot more. Then another Thursday, same bike, an hour and a half, and then run off the bike. Friday, either swim or a longer run. Saturday was a 3.5 hour ride and then run off the bike. And then Sunday was getting longer. It was like a long run. So I was running a half marathon pretty much every Sunday for like 6 months.
So how was your general emotional state during that time?
I mean, I think it fluctuated.
Okay, so talk about that. So there were some days when you were like flying. Some days when you were just...
Do you remember that day I came in and I was like, I'd come through the thing and I'd like come my helmet on, look like an absolute dildo, dressed in all the clobber, and then ran out. And you were like, you'd have been to your class on Saturday morning. I came in with a bike helmet on.
No, I don't remember that. I've clearly blocked out this vision.
Literally, I was like, I felt like a professional athlete. I was like coming in, like, yeah.
Oh, yeah, because you were a bit like, can't stop. Just got my those gel things on. I'm like, all right, you do you, babes. Crack on, Benji.
Put a running vest on. I've been out like...
You like randomly mismatched. Yeah. I think I want to do it as a bumblebee. Do you remember that?
Isabel's favourite animal.
I know, which is really cute. We tried to find you a bumblebee it was
top.
Anyway, seriously, there's like... It's like there's like trauma coming back to me from this time. And I didn't do any of it. I stood on the side and cheered you on occasionally.
But then, to be fair, in your defence, to the ridiculousness when I did the half marathon, I really liked it when you were shouting at me when I was wayward.
Can we have that on record? Time and date. It's like, come on, Ben, you've got this. So, in all seriousness, talking about that experience of Road to Ironman, the ups and the downs. Because one thing that we talk about often is you have a shed load of just determination. You're like, I'm going to run through that wall. And by hook or by crook, you run through the wall.
This is a newfound realisation that I've had. We can't talk about this story in full, but there was a day when me and you were building a wardrobe.
Yeah.
And we had a different afternoon than planned. And my therapist emailed me saying, we know how well you deal with situations like this.
Yeah.
And I was like, we do.
Yeah. Just to clarify, it was a curveball that you made it sound like something weird between us. It wasn't. It was a complete curveball.
It was an outside influence.
A lot of outside influence, which you then had to kind of bounce back from.
Yeah.
One thing I think that's really interesting for me and probably other people listening into this to understand is on those days where you just can't face it, where you just can't do it, where you are at the lowest of low ebbs, where you feel like giving up. And I'm talking about your training and stuff. I'm not talking about anything more sinister than that, but just physically, like, I can't. Because everyone will have days like that to a lesser or greater extent. And yet you do. Yeah, every time you do.
I think the other things, the training is easy. And I'll just explain what I mean by that in a minute. The other things are harder to carry on going with.
Okay.
So like when I've got a shed, like for example, the Ironman, there's an app on the thing where the coach put the things in and then the watch does the thing and you save the thing and it goes to him.
There's a lot of things in this sentence.
Yeah,
what do you mean?
There's an app where Training Peaks,
right.
And the coach would put all the times for how long and the watts on the bike. So when I got on the bike, the turbo, which is an electric bike thing, it would tell me exactly what to pedal for. It would move everything. So it's like automated. The running thing.
So someone set you a structure of what you have to do. So on this day, you need to do this many miles at this wattage. And so you see that and you're like, right, go do.
So like
deliver.
Watching TV, I'm a little avatar person. It would say 100 whatever watts, and then it would move when it needs to go up for however long, and then go down again. So you just execute it.
I see.
So there's no planning involved. You just execute it. The only time I could fit it in between all the other things I was trying to do, work and life and everything else, was early in the morning.
Yeah.
So there was never a debate of whether I'm going to do it or not. It's like getting on the bike. If it got on too late, you got to do it in 90 minutes. You still got to run, then you got to get back and you got work and whatever else is going on. So there's no real debate of whether I'm going to do it or not. Other things, obviously were sacrificed during that time. It just absolutely whacked a lot of it.
Other things like work, that sort of stuff, you mean?
Well, that's obviously with what I do. Blessed really with the kind of thought with what it can do for you. But I get there's only so much you can prioritise, and that's a lot of training. It takes a lot out of you physically and emotionally. I'll come back to what I meant by the other things are harder. There was probably more one time. There was one time I can really remember, and this was really close to the end of the full Ironman. So just to give in context, the half Ironman is called a 70.3, which is 1.9 kilometre swim, 90 kilometre bike, and then half marathon, which I did in 6 hours 51. After that, I had COVID just before that. So I was really disappointed with that time. Because obviously I thought, even to complete it when I first started, I thought, this is madness. I can't run, I don't bike. But then I got super competitive and got really good at all of it because I just tried 100%, like always do everything. Which again, I just thought everyone else does, but apparently they don't. So I was really disappointed with the time and being poorly, and I didn't really perform well. I struggled to get around, really. Like I still did it, but like, it wasn't anywhere near what I was doing 6-7 weeks before. So I was disappointed. So I signed up for the full Ironman, which was double that distance, 3.8 kilometre swim. It's a long way to swim.
I can't even work out how many lengths that is.
A lot.
Don't do the maths.
No, it's a lot. I know how many it is. It's a lot. The bike is 180 kilometres, which took me, when I did the simulation, I did a 9.5 hour workout on my own one day.
I mean, the mental strength.
Yeah, it's a lot.
To work out for 9 hours on your own, that blows my mind, to be honest.
I got in the pool, David Lloyd. at 7:15, swam just over 3 kilometres in just underneath an hour. So it's quick. Got out, still in the wetsuit, was assisted by a beautiful team. They're out in the wetsuit still, straight into the car, straight back here, changed, all the stuff was laid out like a race, got onto the bike, went out and rode 127 kilometres in about 5.5, 6 hours. And then I ran 25k around West Bridgeford.
Oh.
And I got back here just after 5:30.
And what are you listening to when you're doing that stuff? Podcasts and stuff?
Mostly, yeah, Brene. Like the half marathon, listen to Brene.
Yeah.
Which kind of sometimes lets you down a little bit, really, with the running pace, because it'd be slower, because I'll be listening to podcasts. And I don't listen to like rah-rah podcasts. I listen to like deep, emotional, meaningful things. So I'm like running. But the reason I started all this was like doing the work. Like David Goggins was saying, you're going to batter the trauma and emotional stress out of you. So I did. I just kept running because I could not. The pain was a lot. So physically, but I mean mentally, the pain was a lot emotionally. So it's hard, yeah, for sure. So I trained for that for the 8 weeks because I was disappointed. Where's I going with that story? Oh, yeah. So close to the end of that. So it's coming to the end. I think it was the last run out of David Lloyd on Sunday. I had to run 30k. And I'd ridden 7 hours on the bike the day before and then run 5k off that. I think Catherine came out with me for the last couple of weeks, which was like, you know, when you got to go out on your own, I was so grateful. Like Rich, obviously me and him trained a lot, but he didn't carry on for the full. So Catherine, super fit. So she came out and I was so grateful in the last 3 days. So grateful. Free like Saturdays. And then I ran out of David Lloyd on the Sunday. I sat here on the sofa before I left. It started to rain. Spitty fine rain. And I was like, oh, you know, when you're thinking, is there a way where I don't?
Yeah, where I don't have to do this.
What's the way out? Well, Mum. You got to carry a lot of stuff as well. You got to like take all the things. And then obviously I still wanted a life afterwards. And I'm kind of used to this from the bodybuilding, carried on with food in my bag. If you're going to run and, you know, you're wearing one set of clothes to that, then you've got to like take another set and it's endless. Because you've got to take things to run in. If you're going to do the bike, you take the bike stuff, the bike, run stuff. It's just a lot. Anyway, I literally put my stuff on. I was sat on the bench in the change rooms. I thought, running vest and everything else. And I ran out and I just turned right when you come out the gates. I was like, it's a long way until I'm coming home. And I was like, you know, I think that was the moment where I have to have the word myself. People think, I think, from what I get feedback, that they think I'm doing it's easy because there's just no other, I don't have I will not do it. So all they see is me doing it every time, disciplined. But they don't realise, I think, that, well, as you said, I struggle more than most to even get out the front door. Not just from a mental health point of view, but from a practical
organisation
point of view. Me and Rich came off a bike ride, massive 3-4 hour bike ride, and he left me here. He got home, biked home from here. He had 2 young children. He got to David Lloyd before I got there. I was like, how did you get here first? Like, I can't get through life sometimes. Literally, I dropped Tristan yesterday at the garage in West Bridgeford, and he got into the sauna before me. And I was like, I was in the car, like, I'm just.
Your mind doesn't work like that. Your mind doesn't go from A to B to C to D. You kind of, anyway, separate conversation.
So I ran out of David Lloyd, turned up there. And that was the moment where I was like, I was running, I was plodding. I was like, if you plod like this for 30k, you're not going to do 30k. It's going to be a long. And I always used to think, when people talked about gratitude, feel the wind on your face, no word of a lie, I thought, fuck off. Fuck off.
Yeah.
The wind on your face.
Especially when it's spitting.
It was like fine, it was fine rain, like going through. I was going to be, you know, you're just going to be soaked through.
Yeah, it's wet rain.
Some of the last runs had been really hot. So I'd been like, I've been taking a lot of water and dying because I'm mostly muscly, just cramping. And so it wasn't, it'd been stressful. Anyway, I was literally coming up that little hump thing. And I was like, I really, really in that moment was grateful to be outside.
How did you find gratitude in that moment?
Hi, I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. 2 things, these conversations are sometimes quite long, so we've split them into 2 parts. To get access to part 2, plus all the behind the scenes and never before seen footage and exclusive material before anybody else, hit the subscribe button now and download your free VIP studio pass into your mobile wallet. To do that, go to theheartofitpodcast.com/pass. Second thing, as you can see, I'm in a purpose-built studio. I'm a coach and I'm recording a podcast to grow our audience, reach new people, all whilst building trust and authority in our niche. This studio is owned by a 7-figure coach, a company that I'm partnered with who help other coaches to grow and scale their coaching businesses online. If you're a coach, author, speaker, or expert in your field, and you'd like to see how the performance of this podcast translates into business revenue, as well as how much we make from the YouTube monetization and podcast sponsorship deals, just like this one, download the Podcast to Profit Guide, which you can do at theheartofitpodcast.com/podcast profit. Now, back to the episode.
How did you find gratitude in that moment?
Obviously, because of the other alternative, being outside. Like,
so you had to wire your brain to say...
I didn't have to even wire. I just thought... You're lucky to... That's why when I was running around in the first page Grantham and I was killing myself when I couldn't run at all. It's like, run, you're lucky to be outside.
Yeah.
You don't have anything else. You've got nothing, no one, anything else. So just run, because something's going to come of it.
But there is a mindset piece there, which I think is really important to acknowledge. So even if you weren't cognitively or consciously aware of tuning your mind to be grateful, you chose in that moment.
I did consciously do it in that moment.
Yeah, you chose in that moment. You actively chose in that moment, I'm going to be grateful for this. Or I am grateful for this.
Yeah, I think as well, I did. And I think also, I'm going to do it. This is going to happen. So instead of arguing or being annoyed about it, it's going to happen. I've got no choice. I'm going to run. Obviously, people would say you do have a choice, but in my head, there is no choice. I was going to run that 30K. But
I think there's two things there, aren't there? There's the absolute uncompromising determination that you have, which is still a mindset. I think a lot of people are determined, but if they were feeling really, really, really like that, they might have gone, oh, do you know what, sod it, I'll do it tomorrow. But then I also think that once you've got into that place where, trainers are on and you're out and you're going, then there's a mindset shift of, instead of, jogging this and for it to take forever, actually let's spin this into, I'm grateful to be here. I'm lucky to be healthy enough to do this. I'm grateful to be outside. I'm grateful to live in a lovely place where there's loads of places for me to run, and so on and so forth, which changes it from being a slog to actually almost like taking it on as maybe not a positive, but like a productive thing to be doing. I came back
from that absolutely pumped. Absolutely pumped. Because it's hard until maybe someone's been into the shoes, which they obviously never can be in mine. When you've lost a lot and been through what I have recently, and when I was grateful to be outside, that is such a powerful energy. I literally felt like energy bolt through me, and I almost started to almost not sprint, but I was running quick. Yeah. I was like, it is just a mindset, and you have to tap into what is your driver. And I was like, you're going to do it anyway, so you might as well do it well.
But I think even if you were on the fence about going to do it or not, I still think there is such power and benefit and motivation in having that right mindset. So for you, it was, you're lucky to be outside and able to do this. For other people, it might be, I'm lucky to have got my health back having had COVID to be able to do this. Or I'm lucky to have the supportive friends and family to be able to do this. And I think, or I'm lucky to be able to have the idea that I want to do this because it's going to push me into a different realm or out of my comfort zone, or it's going to be, I don't know, a success for whatever reason. No matter where you are and whose shoes you're in, your shoes, someone else's shoes, we can all, if we dig deep enough, can find a positive motivator to flip the switch from being to, okay, I get to do this. I choose to do this.
I love to do this.
I think that's a massive thing is, as you know, I have banned the word should from my vocabulary because it's a pressure word. It's a massive, massive pressure word. It's and a must as well is similar. You could have said to yourself, I've got to do this. And that is almost, you're playing a victim to that situation. I've got to do this. Well, actually, we all have a choice. We all have a choice in everything that we do. But if you change it from I've got to do this to I get to do this, or I must do this into I can do this or I choose to do this, straight away, it feels so much better. It feels so much lighter. It feels so much more manageable. And you're back on your own terms rather than feeling done to. So that mindset shift, whether you did it consciously or unconsciously, will have taken a lot of that weight off you to be able to then propel yourself forward.
I also think that it comes back to an identity thing. This whole, I'm not a smoker. I don't smoke. I'm not a runner. I don't run. I don't smoke. I never smoked. But that's a common one that they say that
or drinkers,
addiction changes when people say, I'm not a drinker. Because it's an identity statement versus I'm not going to drink tonight.
Yeah.
And I heard this actually this morning on a podcast. It was Chris Williamson was talking about, I think it was a boxer. He said that he doesn't quit that last run on the treadmill when no one's there because the demons will come. And then when he's in the 11th
What
round
if he stops?
Of a championship fight, he said the demons are going to come. And I think what that kind of said to me was that, we'll just think about it now, I'm not the sort of person who's okay with myself when I know that I didn't do all I should have done. Because I always know. So I'd have known when I come back from that run and everyone was asking me, I know how to felt within myself.
Yeah.
And I do have that across all things.
And what is that anchored in?
Don't know. I guess especially with I don't want to be someone I'm not. I don't want to be, a word I was going to say is fraud. I don't want people to praise me for something when I stopped. Oh no, I didn't really run. Actually, wasn't what you think. Actually, I didn't do that. Because now I feel I have the need to tell people that I didn't actually do it, so I best do it. And exactly how I said I was going to do it. Not one of the light and loose words with my loyally word into like edge. Well, no, I ran, to 21.1. Yep. When I did run a little bit, did this other thing, it's just not okay with me.
So it's anchored in like authenticity. It's anchored in wanting to operate with integrity. But I think there's
not be a failure.
Oh yeah, okay, there's the big one.
I'd feel shit with myself. Literally, everyone else was going to me, oh my God, you finished the Ironman in 6 hours 51. I was like, that's shit, it's 51 minutes too slow than what I was trying to go for. I was furious.
And yeah.
Disappointed.
There's pros and cons of that though. So partly that will drive you and that will be one of the reasons why you do bounce back from things and why you do succeed in the things you put your mind to and so on. But also what comes with that is quite a lot of self-criticism and quite a lot of extra pressure that you're putting on yourself constantly, which can mean that those low days, those down days, weigh a lot heavier. Because like no matter who, I'm thinking about clients that I coach, if they are a people pleaser, if they are a high achiever, if they are people who have really strong be perfect or success drivers, ambition, those sorts of people, what their positives of that get them to where they want to be, but everything has a shadow side. And if those things are overused or if those things are overflexed, the shadow side can be quite harmful. So you have a not wanting to be a failure, and that has helped you deliver a lot of different things and come back and fight and and achieve things and bounce back and find a way through particular hardships and stuff like that. But what's the shadow side for you of not wanting to be a failure?
Well, in the past, obviously, I was actually having this conversation this morning. I never understood when people said they wanted to go to the other side, as in like cross the river, achieve the thing. When they said, I'll do anything to get there, they don't really mean that.
No.
And I just thought everyone meant what I think and what I meant. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do the thing. And I'm like, if I said I was going to, if I said I was definitely going to do it, I'm definitely going to do it.
Yeah.
Other people don't mean that. I didn't know that. I meant when they said, I'll do whatever it takes, they meant, I'll do whatever it takes. Insert caveat of their boundaries or their standards or their morals.
Or their values or their
values.
Yeah, or their belief system or whatever it might be, yeah.
Whereas mine were kind of a bit more fluid at that time. Now they're not. So I would have done whatever it took. Quite almost literally a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Which obviously, you know, causes all sorts of other consequences.
And when I'm saying the shadow side of not wanting to fail, though, I'm more thinking about those days when you are low, like when, you know, when you've messaged me saying, I'm in a dark place, or I'm struggling to put this and this together in something that makes sense. And it could be something that on days when you're in a good place are really simple, really easy. But when you are in that shadow side of some of this drive or ambition and success and all that sort of stuff, when you're in that almost the self-critical side of it, it has quite a detrimental impact on your mindset, on your well-being, on your mental health. So that's the bit that I was wanting to explore a little bit.
I realised not that long ago that I am so self-critical.
Yeah.
Like, and it got to a point at one point where I was like I'd speak out loud criticism towards myself. And I was like, wow, that's new. That's a new thing. It was never really like that. Probably because it's buried so deep.
Yeah.
But then, I was speaking negatively outwardly toward myself, like really badly. So I guess those things on that other side of it, like when I don't quit, it's because I know that I know that I've done all I can. Because otherwise, I would then in those moments be like, you've literally done all you could. So I try and practice. It sounds again high-minded, or not high-minded. I was going to say lofty. To go practice compassion. It's like, what are you?
Yeah, good one. Woo-woo. Yeah.
But I do try and practice compassion, and people remind me, you and quite a lot of people close to me remind me how compassionate I am to other people now. It's my main thing is to make sure anything I'm conducting myself with other people is from a place of compassion, because obviously I've been on the end. So I'm trying to learn, and I have learned to a point, compassion towards myself in those moments where I struggle. Because I'm not intentionally trying to cause myself the issue. The one that's obviously recent, I wasn't trying to cause myself the problem that came. It wasn't even intentional. It wasn't even directly mine or anything. But then, the situation that I found myself in was still from my own decisions, even like I was in all of the things that happened.
So you talked about that voice, and actually you speaking that, effectively that inner critic that a lot of us have that's silent to the outside world but can be quite noisy in our own heads. You were starting to actually verbalise that out loud, that inner critical voice.
I don't know how people, I always learn, again, that I'm not like other people, so I don't assume anyone else does it like I do it. But so people might be the same. I know you speak sometimes to yourself in a not great way, but mine's like incredibly... It's like
venomous.
To a high level.
Yeah. I might say to myself, oh, for God's sake, stupid cow.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
But you're going a whole other level.
Yeah, way past that.
Yeah. But it's really shocking. Like when I hear people, I've got some friends who can sometimes say things, I'm like, oh, you're being really horrible to us. Like it's very sharp and hurtful when you hear someone's inner critic or inner voice out loud. And when you hear it against somebody else, you want to protect them from it. So how did you feel when you were voicing what was going on in your head to yourself?
Well, kind of how we started all this in the first place, actually, what comes to mind is me and you were starting to label and language these things we were talking about. As we met, and then we were having these, long, in-depth, deep conversations that were going to the heart of it. Plug. And that's where we said, obviously, people listening to this would probably get insight from the things we were talking about, because we were like, it was a David Lloyd club room as well most of the time. We were like really, like emotional.
Pulling it apart.
It was like your stuff, my stuff. And also we got to know each other on another level, many, many levels because of that. And like for me, I was obviously so honest to you about things that were new for me coming up, realizations, the work I was doing in therapy, all the stuff. So you really saw like me,
the inner workings,
pulling apart who I was, who I became, all of everything. and then like trying to put it all back together again. And sometimes it didn't fit, and sometimes I tried this, and I'll talk about it openly, and I still do talk to people. I talk to people openly. Newer people who are in the circle, they're like, I can't believe how it's refreshing how much you just speak your mind openly and honestly about your feelings. And I'm like, I've had the other side of it where I didn't do that, and I'm not prepared to do that again.
Yeah.
But when we started speaking about those things, to come back to your question, your point, you would catch me and go, oh, that's a comment like this, because we just discussed it. So then what I was then projecting or raising, you would say, isn't this the same as this though? Because we just had a conversation about it. There was common used language, which then me and you started talking about, like, no, people don't know this stuff. People do not have the language or like the knowledge of the language to say, are you projecting there? Projection is reflection, to go catching themselves doing this, catching themselves doing that, doing this, speaking badly to themselves.
Yeah.
Because I started to catch myself speaking like that, raised it with you, raised it with my therapist, raised it and be like, right, this is not okay. Whereas I think we don't notice the things good about us, like my determination and resilience is something I've never thought I had.
Yeah.
Other people pointed out to me, and I was like, I didn't know that was a thing for me. Same as my flaws. I've never liked people pointing them out before. But I guess from the place where you gave them to me, or I'm not saying you picked my flaws, but it was also from a place of love and place of trust in a different way, which I've never had that. I can't, not in this way, where I was able to, when trying to understand and learn. Yeah. I was in some real places with my therapy, with you, with, really like, sometimes I know that some of those realizations, I was quite damaged, wasn't I? Yeah. When I'd realised some of the stuff.
It hurt. Some of the stuff really hurt. But I think that's the thing. I think I just want to pick up on something you just said, though, is, a lot of people don't have the language for it. That makes it sound like we think we're something special. We're not.
Well, I didn't have the language for it.
Like, quite clearly. I just want to make that really clear, though. This is not about sitting here on our little ivory tower going, oh, my God, this is something that we get it. And so, we're in some way better or something. Because we're not.
No, and we still have our face down moments. And me and you have had our own things also.
We have, like between us in our friendship and stuff. I suppose the point I'm trying to make, though, is that I think because we're both open to this stuff, because we're both going on our own journey, X Factor, because we're both evolving in this space.
Over 25 you are.
Very much so. Does that mean I get Simon or Alicia?
I don't know.
Anyway.
Louis.
Oh, don't get me started on Louis. Have you ever noticed how he claps like a seal?
Yeah.
Slight aside. Because we're both doing the work, which again sounds a bit cliche, but we're both actively working on this stuff for ourselves. We then created quite an emotionally safe space, or a very emotionally safe space, so that when I was in the space of rumbling with some stuff, I might chat it through with you and you'd be like, hello, little mirror, should we just hold this one up here? Or can I just offer you this? Or are you ready to hear this? And vice versa. And I think sometimes the inner voice can take over. And sometimes what you need is a trusted environment to let it out. And I don't think a lot of people have that. And that's really sad.
And also,
that's really sad.
It is. I also don't think, I might remember language, so we had a conversation where I say, why don't people see me? Hi, I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Two things, these conversations are sometimes quite long, so we've split them into two parts. To get access to part 2, plus all the behind the scenes and never before seen footage and exclusive material before anybody else, hit the subscribe button now and download your free VIP studio pass into your mobile wallet. To do that, go to theheartofitpodcast.com/pass. Second thing, as you can see, I'm in a purpose-built studio. I'm a coach and I'm recording a podcast to grow our audience, reach new people, all whilst building trust and authority in our niche. This studio is owned by a 7-figure coach, a company that I'm partnered with, who help other coaches to grow and scale their coaching businesses online. If you're a coach, author, speaker, or expert in your field, and you'd like to see how the performance of this podcast translates into business revenue, as well as how much we make from the YouTube monetization and podcast sponsorship deals, just like this one, download the Podcast to Profit Guide, which you can do at theheartofitpodcast.com/podcast profit. Now, back to the episode. So we had a conversation where I said, why don't people see me? And you said, because you don't show them.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that makes sense.
It's quite basic. If you hide, they're not going to see you.
So I started showing myself to people, being myself.
I think the context of that conversation is the conversations that we were having and the discussions we were getting into and the emotional vulnerability that you were able to share with me and some other of your trusted confidants was so different from the persona or the persona of who people thought you were. So Ben would walk around.
I don't do that.
You used to.
But I'm a muscly man, so like I don't
So your arms don't touch.
I don't mean to like walk around like I'm carrying.
You used to walk around as if you were going to smack somebody.
No, I did not.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
You didn't see yourself walking around.
Just bouncing around.
You weren't bouncing around. You were like, nobody get in my path. Like RoboCop. I don't know if that's the right reference, actually.
I don't know what you're saying.
But you used to turn up in a way, and I think, we know that people make snap judgments, that people have a lot of biases.
I think that the best example of this...
Can I finish what I was saying?
You can.
Thank you very much. I'm glad things don't change. My point being, you used to walk around in your trackies all the time, walking around being quite sort of... Your body language was one of being quite closed in, quite sort of self-protective. And you said to me, why is it that people don't... And I was like, the persona and the Benji that I see are so different. And I think you mentioned this, like Gemma, I think, has said something similar, and a few others have probably said the same. And you said to me, why don't people see me for who I am? And I said, because you don't show them. And it was just a throwaway line. I didn't really think much of it. It wasn't like some profound moment where I was like, got that one, trademark. It was literally, I was like, you just don't show them. And then over a couple of days, the next thing you start doing is you start wearing like proper clothes again. You do though. Instead of sitting in the...
Ironman stuff, I was carrying a lot of stuff. So it's even more outfits. I was literally carrying like...
It wasn't about the outfits.
I know.
It was about you stepping up and showing up for yourself. And after we had that conversation, a couple of days later, you sent me a selfie of you outside David Lloyd Shock with a shirt on a hanger, and you'd just done whatever crazy bit of exercise. You were about to do another bit of crazy exercise. And you were like, Jojo, I'm showing up for myself today. And you turned up, and I went into David Lloyd and I was like, who is that? This is like a different person. You were no longer skulking in the corner. You were wearing proper like clothes. Like you turned up as if you were a professional, which you are. And you started talking to other people rather than hiding yourself away. And it was as if a switch had flipped.
I met Gemma at one of Gemma's relations, and they were like, they couldn't quite piece together in their head the stories that they'd heard about me, from Gemma.
Yeah.
And then the visual, they were like, I was sat in a vest trained with Gemma, tattoos, is what she said, tattoos, muscly. And they were like, this is the Ben guy, the emotionally aware thing. And she was like, she said, I forget that people are experiencing you for the first time.
Yeah.
And also then you expanded on that. And I was like, because I'm me to me. I don't realise that someone seeing me for the first time is not.
And also, I think it can be hard to consider. We don't all go around thinking, what impression am I making on other people today?
Oh, you know what it was? It's when you got bothered in the sauna.
So yeah, that story is that we were chatting away, and then we went into the sauna. So David Lloyd just got this brand new sauna spa thing, really nice. And it was a Saturday, and it was really, really busy. And I don't know if women listening to this will understand what I'm saying. Maybe guys do as well, I don't know. But from a woman's point of view, you're in what felt like a very masculine environment. It was that day, for some reason, it was very masculine. The environment was very alpha, I would say. There was lots of lads in there, groups of lads, lots of like, daring each other to go in the cold plunge and all this like, Tarzan type behaviour. And as a woman on your own walking into that environment in a swimsuit, you feel automatically on edge. Like, I would never surround myself with groups of lads anyway. Never mind, not wearing many clothes. Like, it just felt completely uncomfortable. And then you said, why don't you come in the sauna and let's have a chat? So went into the sauna, and then there was this group, like 4 or 5 other lads was there. So it was probably me and 5 lads maybe. 6. Can you stop?
Yep.
And the chat just got more and more peacocking.
But for me, I was just being myself. I'm comfortable in those environments. They were they were talking about my Ironman thing.
Yeah, but there was so much like, oh yeah, I've done that, mate, and this and that. And there was all this like, I would call it Billy Big Boxing.
But that was obviously them, and I was just like involved.
You would know.
They were talking about my thing. They were all saying I've run.
You were lapping it up.
Lapping it up is not me going, I'm awesome. They were all saying,
no,
wow,
but you
mate.
were like, oh yeah, and this and that, and you were so different from the Ben who I was having a conversation with half an hour before, and I was like, this is not the person that I know, and this environment feels really uncomfortable and unsafe for me.
Yeah, so I think you were, what obviously we transpired afterwards was you were more sensitive in that environment, one, because of just what you said. And I didn't know that was an environment where you would have those thoughts. I thought you might have thought, they were a bit fucking much, which, whether they were or they weren't, whatever. But I didn't realise you had the other thing going on, because I don't have that. I don't have that.
No.
Ever. I never have, like, what my therapist called male privilege. I never realised that you were even having those thoughts, because I don't have them. Never even considered it to be a thought.
Yeah.
And also when we had the conversation, because obviously I thought you were being oversensitive. I was like, well, that's a bit much. And obviously until we had the conversation, and I was like, I didn't even realise. And then obviously all that transpired, the scene thing, and as you said, overnight, it did a little change. Because the original point we got onto all that was because then people now, immediately, men certainly, would share stuff with me. Women always like share the deepest and darkest stuff, especially when I can share the vulnerability. People are prepared to say some of their most things most of the time they've never told anybody. They'll tell me because of what I was prepared to share with mine. But more I've kind of done that with, especially males more recently. They've never had that. Like I never had. My male friends in the past have not sat around talking about their feelings at all. They don't even have that, as I said, language. They don't even know it's a conversation to have to discuss emotional regulation or being triggered, or more like the response they've had towards a partner or a friend is actually from something that's happened to them in their childhood that actually was riding on top of this. They didn't know. Yeah. So now people, that safe space, as you said, been provided. People are now stepping into it because they're like, oh my God, this is fucking new.
But what's really important about that is that you've changed. You haven't changed. The way you project yourself has changed. My impression is, anyway, you're no longer that kind of like almost needing to create this sense of alpha. Because actually what you're doing is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like you're showing much more your vulnerability and your openness, and you're showing people who you are, and that's encouraging the right people in. Rather than needing to be a certain way to get the response, you're being who you are and welcoming in those people who appreciate it. And then the rest can choose to like it or not.
Well, I obviously didn't think I did that in the day. Obviously, you're right, I lapped it up, but we had a different perception that day, which we discussed. So I wouldn't say I was different. And like, what the biggest change that happened after we had that conversation afterwards was I put you and how you would feel in a situation as a priority to me. So I didn't know that was something that could have been going on for you. So almost like manually learned now a checklist. So, because I knew that you were seeing it off. And I just thought nothing of it, as in I thought, oh, you're just hot or whatever. I didn't think this is a situation you're going to feel like. Yeah. So after that, I then had this in my head checklist of, you might feel uncomfortable because there's lots of men here. And my priority was not to sit there having a great conversation and lap up how great of a training person I am, which is what was happening. My always default was, is Joe okay? Is this situation, anyone here making Joe feel uncomfortable? Don't care what things happening for me, I'm okay in all situations. Joe's the priority in this situation for me. That was a change. Yeah.
I think that's slightly different, and I appreciate you for that. I think that's slightly different from you deciding to show people who you are, though.
It is different. I think there's two things, because that started that conversation. And then what my mind went to when that was proved really to you, Winegate.
Winegate. So I might have had a bit too much to drink, brought the party to Ben's house. He didn't appreciate it very much.
I was really grateful that you two showed up to spend time with me. But
do you want to leave you out?
But I was sober. You guys...
We're not.
Were not. And then a situation, two drunk females were like, rah, rah. And then...
Let's get pizza. Let's do this. Let's do that. Are you girls going home anytime soon? Oh my God, he wants us to leave. Do you not want us to be here?
Oh my God, the vault's so real. I never seen it.
Are you guys going home yet?
I don't think you want us here. Like, I mean, it's lovely to see you guys.
You got any wine?
You brought enough wine. Flipping out.
Yeah, we'd already had enough as well. Anyway, Winegate.
But you got upset about something, which we won't go into. But obviously I stepped in immediately to make sure that you knew for a fact that I had your back in the situation.
Yeah, you kept me safe in something where I was feeling uncomfortable. Yes, you did.
Because I told you the next day when we had the conversation about it, I was like, that's my priority. Because I've obviously not always I was not thought about these things before, not meaning to. But I was consciously aware from that situation, the other ones we mentioned, and obviously things from the past, that I want the people who I care about to know that I care about them, and all the time. It's not like maybe Ben's going to be one way, I'm going to move. No. Consistent, reliable. Yeah. It'll always be there for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one side of the coin.
Yeah.
And I absolutely echo what you're saying. I think there is a point though, which is by being vulnerable, by being authentically you, or with one being authentic, not just necessarily you, but that vulnerability has definitely opened a completely different level of friendship, of connection, of group community for you, hasn't it?
Because
can you just tell me a bit about that, almost like the journey to vulnerability?
I guess because you're kind of always pulling it back the other way. I guess why it's linked for me so much is because that was a struggle probably in the past for me before, and I'm just saying this as a sort of
what was a struggle?
Like being that way, not necessarily being that way, but like
what, being aware of others?
No, I mean more you saying about I'm not sure that's the right way to word it. So now I'm like, you other people, you do you, but I am going to do this in this way, values, in the protecting these people, caring about this thing.
Yeah.
You can cut corners, do that thing, be shady, be alpha, be whatever. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this thing. Because in the past, I probably would have not been not as open about who I was being seen because of I was still flexible. Whereas now I'm not flexible in that way. I'm like, this is me. This is what I stand for. These are my ethics, my ethos is. That doesn't ride with me anymore. I'd love to go and do what you want to do. It sounds really fun, but I'm not going to be able to do that because I know what's going to happen for me afterwards. Yeah. I had a conversation with someone in the cold plunge, and I said to them, I wouldn't. He said, surely you'd want to beat me. If we went and played a game sport now, you'd want to beat me. I was like, no, I'd want you to win. I want you to be the best you can be. He was like, no, you, come on. Yeah. I was like, no, I don't want to, mate, because if we get to that 10% away from that finish line, what I'm prepared to do to win and what you're prepared to do to win are not the same. And I don't want to hurt you because you would probably get hurt. I won't. Not in that way. You would. And that's I don't want to play those, games, but I don't want to put myself in situations out of, look what I can do. That's the whole, show you I can. Tell me I can't, I'll show you I can.
That's his tattoo.
That's my tattoo across my chest, which was from a fuck you, I'll show you point from my childhood. And then it went too far. And now it's like, tell me I can't, I'll show you I can. Again, insert caveat, as long as it's within inside what I stand for.
But I think that's what's also really interesting is one of the big kind of themes of this year has been working out who you are as a person, like what you stand for. And we've come up with various analogies for this. The totem pole, my personal favourite, Stonehenge.
We might want to give some more context to this.
So one of the things we were talking about is you mentioned just then about in previous situations or circumstances, you've potentially been a bit flexible. Read into that what you will, right? So you might have stepped over a boundary. You might have...
I didn't know what boundaries were.
Right. But for if people are listening to this, like, what the hell are they talking about? We're talking slightly in code, but that's okay. But, doing those things which are, potentially not the right thing to do, but actually it's going to be a bloody good laugh, so let's do it anyway. Almost like not thinking of the consequences of things, or maybe pushing pushing the extent to which it's on the right side of the line of being good or bad or what have you, or a moral or immoral thing to do. But one of the big things that you've been working on this year is your kind of, what do I stand for? Who am I? Who am I when nobody's looking? Come back to that. But who am I and what do I stand for? And almost knowing that you can anchor yourself in who you are and confidently know that you won't be flexible, the lines won't blur, that you can be authentic, that you're going to operate with integrity, that you're going to hold yourself to those standards and have those expectations of yourself to make sure that you keep true, rather than waking up one day and having regrets, or rather than getting yourself into a situation which has some negative consequences. So we talked about the concept of the totem pole. So effectively,
it came from the pedestal, right?
Oh, do you want to go there?
Like the pedestal is what you said about the sauna thing. People were putting me up on a pedestal.
Yes.
Because again, back to the people seem to be able to not, they think what I can do seems different to what they can do. Mm-hmm. So they put me up on this thing. And as my therapist said, you didn't quite mind that, did you?
You allowed them to.
I allowed them and encouraged them and let them and loved it.
And enjoyed it, lapped it up.
But what comes with the pedestal is that it's not a long walk from I'm better than you to I'm not good enough.
What do you mean by that?
It's a quote from Brené's book.
Your mate Brené?
My mate Brené. If some people take a little time to kind of wrap their head around the quotes, I'll say it again. We think it's a long walk from I'm better than you to I'm not good enough, but it's right next to it. And what that means...
You've just changed that quote.
Well, I added the first part on, right? And added the next bit on. So it's the full
It's
quote.
not a long walk from I'm better than you to I'm not good enough.
It's right next to it.
Yeah.
We think that when you say you're better than someone, and we often have moments, whether we think we do or not, where we're like, oh, look at that person. You think you're better than someone.
Mm-hmm. So there's a form of judgment there.
Form of judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing is you're actually, when you're making a judgment towards someone else, making a judgment towards something about yourself. In my opinion, and I believe that. Whether people do or not, up to them. So I now catch myself and make a judgment towards someone else. I go, oh, what's that actually about me that I don't like about me that's coming back at me? Mm-hmm. So, for example, Winegate, something triggered me massively that night. And I was like, oh, it's me. Couldn't figure out what it was, but it was me who was getting. So that quote, the next thing for me after I'm self-righteous is something that's not good for me and causes problems for me. So I catch myself in those things. And that's what that pedestal, putting yourself on, allowing people to put you up there, versus what you said is the totem pole, like being the almost symbol of the people or whatever it was.
Well, the totem pole was more about, instead of being movable, almost, because they're fixed, right? The totem pole is this idea of this is who I am, this is what I'm putting out into the world, and I'm immovable, but I'm being true to myself.
And then it was pointed out to us from someone else, the totem pole in, is it Virginia Waters? Is actually behind a fence where everyone goes and worships it almost.
So it's a little bit like a pedestal.
So it's like a pedestal, but it's guys, we were like, well, that's fun. No.
Crap analogy, move on. So then I came up with Stonehenge. And the reason I thought about Stonehenge is because
do tell us.
I think it's good. I stand by it. I stand by it. You are Stonehenge. I'm in the circle of Stonehenge, though.
I'm a rock.
Wow. You said it. Those words never left my mouth.
Yeah.
It's an analogy. Don't read too much into it. The point about Stonehenge is it's a sense of community. It is. It sounds ridiculous talking about circular rocks, but the fact is there's a circle of them and they've been there, they've stood the test of time and they are immovable, but they're in a community and there's a sense of togetherness about it. If just one of those rocks was there, it wouldn't be anything particularly special. But the fact is that there is the collection of them, which is what makes it special. So each individual rock person is themselves and authentically themselves. But then when you put it into that sort of community feel and create a sense of togetherness around it, that's where the magic happens.
And also...
I really think it's a good analogy.
And also, it was the fact we were saying, I'm going to be still doing the same thing. So you do you over there, but I'm not going to change what I'm saying and doing because it's me doing the real thing. So it's not going to be come back one other day and the value system and the ethos has shifted to, it's not a long walk to it unless I want to and make it a little exception for, and it's going to
unless it really, really appeals, or unless no one sees me or whatever. Yeah.
Which often in the past
has happened.
How do I justify this to myself? And tell
how can I find a way where this is all right? Yeah. But going back to you didn't show yourself to people, I think you've been on a journey of working out who you are to then work out what you are, like who you are showing. And I think my sense from you, and again, forgive me if I'm wrong, but my sense from you is that you've kind of been a bit of a chameleon. You've worked out ways to fit into situations. You've worked out ways to feel confident in situations by turning up as different versions of your persona, or by putting on a particular front. And going back to that, it's not a long walk from I'm better than you to I'm not good enough. My sense from you is in certain scenarios in your past, you've probably projected, I'm the big man, in whatever way you want to call that. But actually inside you're like, oh God, I'm not feeling good about this. But if I just keep telling people that I'm good at this, or I'm the big man, or I'm stronger than them, or I'm faster than them, or I'm more successful than them, then they'll believe it. And then they'll like look to me and they'll put me on this pedestal. And then, it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It's not saying anything. It's back to the same determination that we said about keep running and stuff. That can, like you said, the shadow side, that is it's the actions that go with what you're trying to prove to yourself.
Yeah.
Proving to you, they're not saying I'm better than you or saying these things to whatever. It's more the things that can go along with trying to actually be that person who's not beatable, and you're prepared to take it too far.
And linked to that is a sense of success, and linked to that is a sense of status, and linked to that is a sense of power and money, and all those things come along with that, and it starts to become this self-fulfilling prophecy. But actually, when we had that conversation, you said, why don't people see me? And I said, because you haven't shown them. What you had to step into, and what took a lot of courage from you, in my opinion, is you stepped into your authenticity and you stepped into your vulnerability, and you showed people Benji rather than Ben the whoever you would have been before. I'm caricaturing it because you had so many versions.
See that? Quite well, might I add.
Thank you. You had so many versions of that person. Actually, my sense, because I didn't know you, but my sense is that you would have stepped into a particular persona depending on the scenario. Whereas now, you're showing people you. How does it feel now? Like really feel, not, it feels great that I'm really authentic. How does it really feel in those days when, as you say, you're being brave with your life?
Hi, I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Two things, these conversations are sometimes quite long, so we've split them into two parts. To get access to part 2, plus all the behind the scenes and never before seen footage and exclusive material before anybody else, hit the subscribe button now and download your free VIP studio pass into your mobile wallet. To do that, go to theheartofitpodcast.com/pass. Second thing, as you can see, I'm in a purpose-built studio. I'm a coach and I'm recording a podcast to grow our audience, reach new people, all whilst building trust and authority in our niche. This studio is owned by a 7-figure coach, a company that I'm partnered with who help other coaches to grow and scale their coaching businesses online. If you're a coach, author, speaker, or expert in your field, and you'd like to see how the performance of this podcast translates into business revenue, as well as how much we make from the YouTube monetization and podcast sponsorship deals, just like this one, download the Podcast to Profit Guide, which you can do at theheartofitpodcast.com/podcast profit.